And moving straight on into the draft, as we can see, we're already over halfway done. These two teams really tearing through it. And this is going to be game one of this best of three. LGD.CDEC taking on LV Gaming. It looks like CDEC leads off with the Void, the Bat, and the AA. Going to be LV following up with the Skywrath Mage, a Puck, and an Enigma. A lot of team fight, a lot of AoE on both sides.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be fun to see the AA combination with the Void. We've seen this before. It seems like the popular one as of late is the Skywrath, but that's taken up quickly by LV Gaming. And as far as the bans are concerned, I've been seeing, especially after Cloud9 of all teams, and they've made their way to China and then performed well recently ESL with this Terrorblade pick. And I've been seeing it specifically after Eternal Envy's played it, just banned all the time by most teams in the first position. So that's banned out quickly. But as far as other things on LV Gaming's side, with a Puck and an Enigma, they got a very intelligence-based lineup so far.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm interested to see what the last two heroes are to tie it all together for them. I do love Puck. I'm a huge fan of him right now, especially in this patch. The buff to the Ags upgrade is actually, I think, one of the more powerful upgrades that it's had. It's a very, very long stun if you break the coil, and it goes not only through BKB, but when they activate BKB and still try to run through it, it will still stun you. So it's a very, I really like Puck in this metagame right now, so I'm interested to see how LV Gaming pulled it off.
Yeah, Puck's one of those heroes that, you know, was top tier for a long time. I mean, even when he was somewhat situational, you still had players who were outstanding on him and so on and so forth. But he fell off really hard in the last patch. But lately we've been seeing him make a bit more of a comeback. But I really love the drafts on both sides. This just looks like a fun game to cast. Seeing CDEC pick up the Sand King, you know, whenever I look at a lot of these players, they're familiar names, but like most Western casters, only have a very limited experience casting them because we don't do gigantic, you know, straight off Chinese and other Asian division kind of casts all that much. Usually just incorporated throughout D2L, which means I see them for a dedicated time over just a season or two a year. But on the side of LV, Demons, I think, might be the best Sand King I've ever seen. So CDEC, they pick up Sand King, and it certainly works well. Love a Sand King and an Ancient Apparition together. They can do a lot in terms of the early game, and of course, the power of Epicenter following a nice Ice Blast can't be underestimated. But it's also a nice pick for them to take that away from LV. Of course, no idea if that's something they were actually going to go with. But like you said, this just looks to be a match with a hell of a lot of fireworks, and we're looking ahead now to our last picks. What do you think would fit in well on both sides as we wait for that fifth pick on both sides?
Well, with a Void and a Bat Rider, I would assume it's going to be a safe lane Void, and they maybe need a mid hero here for LGD. I don't know for sure. There could be a solo mid Bat. It seems like we don't see too many teams do that anymore. So some sort of mid hero here that would work well for them, that would go up against a Puck. I mean, there's a lot of different things. It really depends on what they want to do. Like, do they want to be more aggressive with some burst damage? They could pick up a Quap. I know that Quap is more popular in the Eastern scene than the Western scene. But again, that's assuming that they're going to run the safe lane Void. As far as LV Gaming goes, they have the Slark now, which I would think to be their... See, it's very difficult to say right now because there's so many different things that both teams could do, especially LV. Like, they could run an off-lane Puck. They could run Puck solo mid, which I probably think is the best thing to do, just because he's so dominant in the mid 1v1 role. So, I don't know. It's very, very open right now for both teams. LGD, CDEC, though, they're cutting into a lot of their extra time, only down to 20 seconds or so. But I would presume this to be a solo mid type of hero. And to touch on your point, when we're talking about the Sand King, I think it's safe to say that we've seen this hero globally fall off, not fall off, but not favored as much. And it is going to be the Templar Assassin for solo mid. But I would say more the times than not, it's the Eastern players that really strive with this hero as of late. I mean, if you watched FY at ESL 1, it was insane how well he could play this hero. So it's a very popular hero among more Eastern teams, I would say.
As we wait for this last pick, if you could, my friend, just pot your mic down a little bit. Apparently the leveling off just a smidge, but that's okay. Hopefully we'll get everything lined up. But yeah, I love seeing the TA picked up to go with this. And this is just the team who's going to be ready to fight very quickly. And then Viper, of course, rounding out a team, a composition that should be able to deal with that quite well. There's just so many ways for LV Gaming to get into and out of a fight. And I love the way this meta looks in terms of the drafts and seeing drafts like this. There's going to be so many ways to start fights, so many ways to counter initiate, so much mobility. I mean, both sides have a lot of heroes that are going to want to blink dagger or have built-in mobility like Faceless Void and so on. So moving ahead now to game 1. This is our kickoff day. The Eastern Division getting us started here at D2L Season 5. Should be loading in just a moment. By the way, make sure you take a minute to head to D2L.GG. It's been revamped as well, and you can find all the information that you could possibly want in terms of our broadcast schedules, in terms of the overall tournament and how it's going to be working. So certainly worth taking the time. All right, and we should be back, and obviously action taking place. I want to explain the situation as quickly as possible. We either just experienced a major outage that affected most of the office, if I'm not mistaken, or the dreaded D word, which we shan't repeat for hope of it not being a reality. But either way, the action will roll on. It looks like LV has been doing very well in games so far. They lead 4-1, and they've taken a tier 2. So we'll try to catch up on what's going on as quickly as we can. And again, apologize for what is, I guess you expected. Expected anymore. Day 1, and hopefully we can get things back on track. Anyway, obviously that affected me and not you, Tralf. Talk to me about what's been happening.
Yeah, well, actually, some action onto the Ancient Apparition, as there is a stun coming out from Sand King. Blink just purchased, but there's also Blink coming from the puck, and there is the lasso on the puck, so puck will fall. It seems.
Yep, there's going to be a Chronosphere, going to catch his own teammate. No, there's the black hole. Oh, Burrow Strike from the Sand King, able to turn their fate around, and now the Bad Rider likely to die as he makes it back into the woods, but not far enough. In the meantime, the Sand King has bailed himself out, hiding out as well. So CDEC giving up a bit, but getting some back as well. And now the Ice Blast will come out, and if that hits Demons, whoo, came very close. He was quite low, but that might be enough to ward them away from that tier 2.
Yeah, I think this is just what we talked about, is that LV has a superior early game, and honestly a much superior early to mid game as well, as there's more action onto the Ancient Apparition. But he will be okay for the time being. And I think CDEC just needs to minimize, or they needed to minimize their deaths. They were fine early on when it was like 3-1 kills, but now that it's 8-2 and they've lost, not so much that they've given up towers of gold, but more of they now have no longer access to their jungle. If LV gets some aggressive wards up now. There is a Blink stun coming out in DDZ. He is very, very tanky, but there is an Ancient Apparition ult. Can they get him? There's a question. The corrosive skin gets the kill on the Sand King before he dies. So it ends up being a 1-for-1.
Yep. And like you said, man, the lead that's been generated so far, they're actually going to be able to bring down the Ancient Apparition behind this. The Slark going to work, and now here comes Puck. Let's see if they can catch the Void. Stun is there. He won't be able to make it away. Tried to leap at the last second, but instead a very high-profile kill as LV continues to build on their momentum. 11-3 now, and we're just 16 minutes in. Taking a look at the gold graph, we can see we're talking 10K overall net worth lead that LV has generated thus far, coming up on 7,500 XP. Now, if you're CDEC, Tralf, what's the game plan? You're losing towers, and like you said, they've lost control of their jungle for most intents and purposes. How do you get this back on track? Just hope for a fight, or do you try to go for pickoffs?
Absolutely.
There's one.
Yeah, absolutely pickoffs. As you're going to see DDE, not to be confused with DDZ or DDC or whatever, but he falls. It needs to be pickoffs with just ultimates, man. Like, just farm up as much as you can. Pick off when Chrono's up. Pick off when Epi's up. Pick off when the Lasso's up. And when those things are on cooldown, you just farm. You do not try to force things. They're in too far of a rut now to try to force things and go for crazy plays. They do have their core items relatively, which is good, which is the Blink on Bat and Blink on Sand King. They just came out very late, so they're going to have to play very careful Dota right now.
Well, what this game feels like it's going to come down to, especially with LV having generated such a lead so far, it's going to be who can punch first and punch hardest. And speaking of, Sand King eats half a health bar of damage from Slark, caught with a Dark Pact and an auto attacker too. He's got to pull back. He's there along with the Bad Rider. And they're going to try to defend this tier 2. Good phase shift as the Puck dodges the Ice Blast. And behind that, Slark manages to find the Bad Rider. And no, Sand King there to help clean him up. And the Bad Woo survives with just 16 HP. Was being ticked down by that Orb of Venom. But this does leave the tier 2 now in bottom, defended by 1. And that's that poor Ancient Apparition. Here comes someone in to try to help. It's going to be the Void. Void does have Chrono on call. And the threat of that looks to be enough to force them back, not wanting to play too greedy and give away too much of their lead just by trying to make something where there's nothing.
And that's smart too, because there's nobody farming top, which means they've brought everyone from CDEC back, which means they've wasted their time and wasted time that they could farm. So they know that they're farming faster. They're spreading out the map. They also, in the meantime, had DDE and the Skyride farming mid too. So they're playing this quite well. But at the same time, I still feel like the draft is just wonky to me from CDEC. To have, first of all, a one position void, which can work sometimes, but you need to be more aggressive on the offlaner. And I think it was nice and somewhat ingenious to have action onto DDZ actually.
Another good pick if they can bring him down another time. Ice Blast on the mark as well. Shouldn't be an issue, even expending the Epicenter to make it happen. Puck came in to try to make something happen and instead got himself in a little bit of trouble, but behind that is a black hole with a Mystic Flare on top. Demons coming in to show why he's such a playmaker. 3-for-1 exchange. LV loses the Viper again, but on the back of some great team fight coming out of their two support. I guess you can't call them supports. They managed to take another big fight. There will be another solo kill as well as the Slark manages to clean up the AA behind the fight. 4-for-1 now, and now he's going to go back in. Going to work on the Void. Void has Chrono. Will he spend it? He will. Has to use it defensively, but he's being chased by DDE. Going to be caught from behind with a concussive shot. Doesn't matter, though, as he had already crested high ground. Either way, a great sequence from LV, and they are now tripling up CDEC 15-5.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, these supports are so underfarmed that the Slark is just gonna have a field day with them. Like they don't have money for Ghost Scepters, not even close. AALT coming, it actually misses everybody. That's really bad. But yeah, this Slark, like I said, is gonna have a field day. He's almost got, if he wants, a Scotty. Very, very close to that. Viper's super tanky, almost with the BKB. Puck, the shop is her oyster, or its oyster, whatever it is. And I would love to see the Aghanims, just also because they're up so far, she can pretty much buy whatever she wants. But again, I still think it comes down to the draft. These are two very, passive supports, in my opinion, that don't do much. And when they're up against in tri-lane against a Puck, their only hard stun is a Sand King. But like I mentioned in the beginning, the level 1 Swirl Strike the range is so crappy that that's nothing to rely on. And they needed to punish the offlaner harder, but you couldn't do it with a nice draft of Puck being in the offlane. We talked about how that could have been a possibility, and they did it, and I think it worked out very, very well for them.
Well, just look how reliant all of CDEC is. I mean, they have a Void who, of course, can right-click quite well, but at this stage of the game in particular, they're really relying on chaining their abilities together. If you have a Puck who can get in and land a 2- or 3-man Waning Rift, that just completely nullifies their combat potential. Speaking of, there's going to be a smoke. They're going to catch two. Jumping ahead, that's going to be Demons. Demons there, and yes, another big Mystic Flare. Demons caught some damage there, but DDZ rotating through, unable to track down the Faceless Void, but they will get the Sand King perhaps from behind. Yes, the coil expended just to make sure they got him at distance. Another 2-for-0, and LV is absolutely rolling. 12,000 gold for them, coming up on 10,000 experience lead. A beautiful last 5 to 6 minutes as they have just taken this game into their own hands.
And they're pretty much playing it like they have to. Like if this game goes to the outer reaches of the time limit of 60 minutes or so, I don't know if they could contest. Like I mentioned, Slark is deceptively strong in the late game, but Void TA with the Batrider pick-off potential in the late game is pretty scary. And they've really pressed their advantage from the laning stage on, and it's shown. They've only lost one tower. They might lose top, but this is negligible. Actually, there is some TP support coming up here. So yeah, only down one tower, whereas CDEC has lost all of their outer towers.
Puck's decided to go Dagon, not needing a lot of control, instead opting for the damage. But yeah, I mean, LV's in a position now where they can start to think about snowballing this out. Of course, they don't want to give up anything for free. The Slark has been very, very active, and as we can see, it certainly told the tale in terms of net worth. He's atop the board, coming up on 11,000, 9,000 and 7,000 respectively for the Viper and Puck behind that. So you have to get down to positions 4 and 5 before you see anyone with CDEC after their handle. They've got a lot of ground to try to make up. I mean, do you just try to turtle now and hope that they give you something, or are you more wanting to be more active, wanting to make something happen on your own accord?
Oh, we saw Batrider very close to getting the lasso off onto Slark. That's very scary to do, though, because if he gets the Dark Pact off, it could be all for nothing. But yeah, they just need to completely use pickoffs with just ultimates. They need to, that kill we saw up top, they need to do that, but not near a tower. If they do that, the same gank where they just lasso and then epicenter and then maybe even use the chrono on top of it just to get a kill and back, they're down so far that that's what they have to do to make this level out, because their high ground potential, or their high ground defense, is actually quite good with the Batrider and the AA. So if they can hold off long enough to where they can somewhat compete only defending their base, and I think they'll be okay.
Well, down at bottom, speaking of defense, Skywrath in some trouble, picked off from behind now. DDZ right up front, doing the work, or eating the damage rather, and there's going to be a 3-man coil followed up. Slark's going to leap inside, and all this team fight on both sides just doing massive damage. Dagon is showed off, and now Demons once again hits a 2-man black hole. No one going to be coming to their defense. They're going to try to maybe get the TA out of trouble. Not going to happen. Damage too high. So they managed to catch 2, the Skywrath Mage and the Viper in that last engagement, to give away 4, including their 2 main cores, TA and Faceless Void.
This Enigma's really holding their lineup together as Slark pursues the Batrider 1, 2, 3 punch, and he does get the kill. Wicked sick here for B, whoever that might be, the Slark player, as he's just on a roll now, 7-0-5. But yeah, this when he used that black hole, fantastically played. There was 10 mana off from the Batrider Flame Break. He was just sitting there like, please let me regen fast enough. Has more kills. Sorry, I missed that one. I just figured he wasn't going to be able to get it. But yeah, this is what I talked about. The supports are just going to, like I said, a field day for Slark on these supports.
Well, it's been a rocky start for CDEC. Rocky start for us as well. Here's going to be a little bit of a initiation as Slark will be forced out on the Burrow Strike. Again, want to apologize for that. It looked like again, just to recap, as everyone, it does seem to be resetting, not a lot of action everywhere else. I don't know that it was a DDoS, because if it was, then the appropriate people handled it immediately, and has happened very rarely here. But it could have just been a horrible ISP outage, but it was bizarre. It wasn't an outage. It looked exactly like a DDoS in that I was sending signal and receiving signal, but nothing of quality was going in or out. But in any case, things are going smoothly now, and we're going to hope it stays that way. Thanks again for tuning into the D2L Season 5. First game of our fifth season. LV taking on CDEC, and LV off to a hell of a start.
Yeah, not to mention, too, what we talked about in the pregame, which was that as of late, CDEC looked pretty good as far as the numbers were concerned. They just took out LGD very, very recently. In the last matchup against LV, they had their number. And the fact that LV are coming out striking this aggressively is really good if they do lead into Game 2, assuming they win this one. It's not over just yet, but they are definitely on the right track.
Well, we'll see how they want to press this. I mean, going high ground is still going to be very difficult. And, you know, you can talk about how big their lead is, but when you're up against the Chronosphere, you have to deal with the punching power, the big combo potential of Ancient Apparition and the Sand King. BKBs become very necessary, and as of right now, only 1 out on the Viper. Slark, yeah, I was going to say he may be getting his. He's up to 3,500 gold, and it looks like there'll be one on the Enigma. So chances are there'll be a little bit of downtime as they farm out 1 or 2 BKBs just to make going high ground a little easier, but that, of course, is not going to suit CDEC because they want to smoke out. They're going to have a chance to maybe catch this Slark, and the Puck's right behind him. There's the lasso, but the counter initiation's there. There's going to be a Chronosphere. They want to make sure they secure this. The epicenter was going off, and yeah, he somehow couldn't get to him. Now the coil's there, and the Batrider continuing to chase the Slark away, as is the Void. They're going to stay in front of him. Behind that, the fight rages out. We're going to see the Ancient Apparition die. The Sand King stays inside of Sandstorm. Didn't see how they managed to get the Slark, but the fight playing out in favor of LV behind it at the very least, as they did manage to not only keep the Puck alive, but get him a kill as well.
Yeah, it actually went very well for CDEC, all things considered. I thought it was going to be bad because the Slark ulted before the Void Chronosphere, which, if you know, in the last patch, they changed it, so now you can't see him anymore if he ultis. It used to be a gigantic counter to Slark, but not so big anymore. It still holds him in place, but you can't attack him.
Right.
That's what happened. But Slark actually tried to pounce through these trees here at the small camp of CDEC. Had one more auto attack as he pounced through from the Batrider. Batrider got the credit for the kill with a nice streak as well, I believe. Yeah, the monster kill streak here for Sugar Free. What a great name that is, by the way. I don't know if that's his real name, because they seem to not be using their official names, but I do love that name. Sugar Free.
Yeah, and I would imagine the reason the names aren't transferred is the fact that the ticket isn't in the game for the tournament.
Oh, that's right,
so it didn't auto-proc, so we're going to have to ask them. Looking ahead to Game 2 to make sure they do that. Don't forget, there are 2 best-of-3s on the way. This is just the front end of that. Game 1 of this best-of-3 right now. Our second series will be Invictus Gaming, taking on Lay Gaming, which will be fun. I'm hoping that's how that's pronounced. It's LAI Gaming, so. But yeah, a couple of good series to get things started, and I'm actually really enjoying watching LV go to work. I mean, this is a team that's stacked with talent. You know, if you've been watching the Chinese scene at all over the last year or two, none of those names are unfamiliar. And it's just always fun to see these teams, you know, right about this time of year, usually right around fall, things start to settle down a little bit. And when they do, you can really start to see some real talent emerge. I mean, hell, just look at Vici and how well they've been doing since adding Black and, of course, shifting their roster around.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm interested to see how LV can maybe close this one out. Like I said, that as long as CDEC can minimize their deaths and minimize their losses, their high ground defense is pretty damn strong. So, and they've managed to do so. They haven't lost a tier 3. Their racks, obviously, because of that, haven't been poked. And yeah, the defense is still real. Their Slark is a big problem, but as far as getting in there and doing damage uphill, it's a whole nother ball game. And this is where the Chinese really strive, is their late game defense. And CDEC definitely has the tools to do that. So it is 24-9, and there's a substantial lead for LB. But I'm getting skeptical now, as they need some more like team items to break the base. I feel like they have the mech. Is there a pipe up there? Like pipe would be fantastic.
They've got 3 BKBs now. They just finished. They had the one on the Viper. Slark just finished his, and Demons, who's played phenomenally on this Enigma, finished his just moments ago. And they poked around Roche and decided to go ahead and smoke and go hunting. And they're going to be able to catch the Bat, who is hanging around the back of it. There's a Sinking to come in. There's going to be a Chronosphere, though, but it's right into a Mystic Flare. It's a lot of damage. They bring at least one down. Slark is still up and running, however. The Epicenter goes up behind the fight, and we see the TA caught by Demons from the low ground with that black hole. It's a 2-for-1 thus far. Buyback out on the puck. Can they clean up AA before he gets home? No. He manages to TP away. So they go 3-for-2. The puck buying back and coming back into this fight. And now it looks like they are ready to try to go high ground. A lot of abilities expended. The BKBs used on 2 of those heroes. And that last engagement, the Viper still has his at the ready. Doesn't look like they're in any position to contest this. The Sand King has bought back, though. But with Chrono, Ice Blast, and the Epicenter all down. Ice Blast, okay, just came off, and they will go ahead and toss this out. But the follow-up, I think, is going to be lacking. Let's see how they want to try to defend this. Behind that, we're actually going to see Slark going right to work, tracking down the Sand King. A beautiful 2-man Mystic Flare and a coil to go with it. Bat doing what he can to try to defend, but they're way back towards the Tier 4 and zoning them off. Buyback from TA, that's gold they can not afford to spend. She does have a Deso, but if she's going to try to defend these racks, she's going to have to come in and manhandle them. Problem is, Slark is huge. 1 rack's down, that's the melee range next on the docket.
I think that the TA bought out way too late. I thought she was going to buy out right as the Ice Blast was about to hit. And I thought that would have been a good time, but she bought back way too late. The Slark had already gone in. The Slark's BKB and ulti were down when he jumped in. So I was thinking they could possibly turn this. The one good thing about that is after the puck bought back, he hadn't used coil yet. So as you saw right there, the coil was really effective. But I still feel like Amanda here playing this TA needed to buy back a little bit earlier. I think they could have cut their losses a lot more if she had done so.
32-11, and CDEC in a hole that, well, it's getting it's more of a crater at this point, unfortunately. The lead for LV through the roof. They're up a racks, and they're going to be able to play this out at whatever pace they dictate. In fact, Puck's not even far from an Ethereal Blade now. Already has up the Ghost Scepter and 1,900 gold aside, and here comes the Desperation Smoke. Just past 31 minutes, they're going to look for a catch and probably try to back and do Roshan off of a DDZ right there, and he will be lasso. Got the BKB off in time, though. Let's see if the follow-up's going to be there. It's going to be the jump ahead from the Void, looking for the Chrono. Not going to be able to find it. In the meantime, TA is locked down. Void going to work on Demons. Demons was not going to have the black hole, but behind that, the fight rages either anyway. DDZ chased all the way into the Roche pit. He'll be cleaned up. It's Slark now, showing his punching power. Going to work on that TA. Behind that, there's a coil. The caught 1 burrow strikes there, but the BKB's active. Doesn't slow Slark down. Going man mode now, engaging the Void right in the mouth with DDE behind, and another gorgeous Mystic Flare. Let's see if they can follow it up. Will that? Yes! Enough to make it a 4-man wipe. They gave up 2, but Slark just continues to manhandle this CDEC squad. He's on a roll. He's got 3,600 gold and another fight they could hardly afford to lose.
Yeah, Batriders here trying to make a play, maybe trying to sneak this, but they might even see him actually if he comes into range of the ward. They actually do have a ward down, so yeah, Batriders gonna fall away. But the thing about long engagements like that is it's so beneficial for Slark because he just racks up all the extra stats from the Essence Shift. He was up to like 30 or something, which means if you look at right now he's stealing 75 agility. So he's hitting for 260 damage just about. And it was a solo Chronosphere onto an Enigma there. So that was kind of a problem. They're kind of forced into using big spells on only one target is because the spread is just so good from LV.
Well, the Aegis goes to DDZ on that Viper. He's not far at all from finishing an Assault Cuirass. Only needs the Hyperstone now. So about 1,000 gold more. I call it 1,200. He'll be there. But again, the BKBs are just showing. Again, we talked about it even during the draft. The combat potential is there from CDEC. But with the Slark being so far ahead at this point, picking up now a Eagle Song even. And, yeah, the Mask of Madness on the TA. I mean, you can understand it, but without a doubt, just that we have to get over the hump at some point. And DDZ just kind of slowly sieging out Tier 3 right now.
Yeah, this is how Vipers play this, especially when he has the Aegis. Really smart. You don't want to use all your stuff on a Viper, not to mention he does have an Aegis, so it's almost like they have to bypass him, just kind of go in blindly behind and catch the people behind him. That's where Bat comes into play with maybe a smoke. Oh, they're going to go on the Viper. Very interesting. We'll see how this pans out.
And the Viper picked off and loses his Aegis, but here comes the engagement behind. Start going to work on that Void. Void has Chrono if he wants it. In the meantime, DDZ back up off the respawn, caught with a side trap, eating some damage from behind, gets off the Viper strike onto the Void. Now he's going to be able to peck away at him as the BKB was expended. And Slark actually manages to track him down behind. And now, able to make his way back. There's going to be another coil. Catches two. Only one with the black hole, though. Demon's getting the damage dealer as they clean up the Sand King behind. And now, once again, that Slark just chopping wood. Pursuing out the TA. Mystic Flare off the mark that time, but it's not going to matter as they have enough to slow and to pursue. Triple kill for our Slark, and GG going to be called. So LV comes out against CDEC and notches not just a Game 1 win, but a damn impressive one.
Yeah, I've played in matches and scrims against Slarks that just get out of hand, and it's one of the most annoying heroes to actually play against when you're behind. Because like I mentioned, in long drawn out team fights, this hero just it becomes when if you look at their items and you look at yours and you think, okay, I got a 1v1, and you assess the situation, you're thinking, okay, like for instance, Void against Slark, it was a perfect example where we saw normally Void just wins because of the Bash chance against a one-on-one melee hero. But in that instance, you just couldn't because Slark was stealing so much damage. Not only does it give him damage, but it takes it away from him as well. So he's starting to do less progressively throughout the fight, and then Slark is doing exponentially more. And it kind of throws you off when you're fighting against him in these long drawn-out team fights because he's much stronger than you might think he is. And I think that's why he's deceptively strong in the late game. We didn't see LV Gaming go to the late game, but they didn't need to. That's how their draft was designed to play. So well played by them.
You can take a look at the stats to understand the pace of this game. Slark finishes a 34-minute game at a level 24, 14 and 11 for him. Stand-up performer without a doubt. Good play across the board. Once again, I'm your host, Aaron AC Chambers. Thanks so much for being a part of the broadcast, guys. Sorry for the rocky start. Hopefully, we're over that hump and it'll just be smooth sailing from here on out. Tralf, of course, my co-caster. Make sure you check him out. You can find us both on Twitter and elsewhere. He's at TralfDota. I'm at AC. Game 2 of our lead-off best of 3 kicking off Season 5. LGD.CDEC taking on LV Gaming coming up in just a moment. Stick with us. We'll be right back.